Well, good afternoon. So glad for you to join us today. I'm going to be making a dish that I used to make for my family a lot, and I've had to convert it to make it fit my keto lifestyle. Originally, this was a chicken that was dipped in egg, which we're still going to do, but then we coated it in a seasoned breadcrumbs, and they were flash fried in a pan and then finished in the oven. Well, with the way I eat now, I don't eat grains, and so I'm no longer using the breadcrumbs. And I also want to do a little bit healthier. So we're going to do this dish a little bit different. It's going to be a beautiful chicken that we're going to slice. We're going to dredge it in the egg with some almond flour and some Parmesan cheese, as well as some seasoning. And then we're going to bake it just long enough to brown it at a really high, like a 450 oven. And then we're going to throw it in a pan and continue cooking it the traditional way with the cheese and the mushrooms. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to start out with our mushrooms. So here I have about 10 whole portobello mushrooms. And I'm just going to slice these, pretty simple slice here. One of the big challenges when a lot of people decide to make a healthy lifestyle is sometimes there's just comfort food that you miss. And this is a dish that my mom made, and that in turn I made for my kids. And so it's something my kids really enjoy. And you just miss it. They're just, it's not just the flavors that go with it. It's the emotions and the memories, and it's a core memory that I have. And certainly when we can take these dishes and we can make them healthier, what happens is we're keeping the core memory. You can still have the pleasure of having the food, and we're going to have all the elements. We're going to have the mushrooms. We're going to have the cheese. We're going to have the Italian flavored chicken. We're going to have all of those elements, and we're just going to do them in a way that it still has those similar feelings and tastes, but they're going to be healthier. So right now what we've done, I had about 10 whole mushrooms, and I just sliced those up here. You can see. I'm going to take you with me over here. We are going to now put them on about medium to medium high heat. And I'm just using a little bit of avocado oil. That's what we're doing today. Kind of get this around my pan so you can see it's just enough to coat the pan. So it's maybe 3 tablespoons. And then we're going to add our mushrooms. Now while we're doing this, as these mushrooms cook down a little bit, I have a half a cup of white wine we're going to add to finish cooking the mushrooms. While these mushrooms are cooking, what we're going to do is going to go ahead and cut and prep the chicken. Okay, so we'll come back over here. We're going to turn this over to the other side so we have a clean side to our cutting mat, because all we did on that is mushrooms. And I have chicken breasts. So these chicken breasts that I have, you can also do this with chicken tenders. That's actually the way my mom used to do it, was with the chicken tenders. Either or is fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to just cut these into pieces. So about like this. It's about 1 inch wide. Just kind of slice them, because that's the part we're going to dredge these. To dredge means we're going to dip it in egg, and then we're going to take and dip it in our almond flour, Parmesan cheese, and spice mixture. And I'm going to show you how to make that. I haven't done that just yet. I'm going to get this chicken all ready to go. This chicken, I started to say, came from Sprouts. We moved to Florida here about a year ago, and so we don't have things as handy. I used to be able to go to Sprouts and Whole Foods and those places and get things pretty quicker on the daily, and I'm now 45 minutes away, so that's something that I have certainly had to deal with. So okay, so it's really important when you're working with raw meat, and especially with chicken, that you wash your hands frequently. So that's what we took a minute to do. I'm now just gonna lightly turn our mushrooms here so they are all coated with oil. And then we're going to add our half a cup of white wine. And then I'm going to turn this down to medium. So we're going to let those simmer while we finish working on our dredging. So to dredge, right now what I have here is 1 cup of almond flour. And then I have Parmesan cheese. It's the stuff like you put on spaghetti. Now the kind I use uses no cellulose, and that's really important, especially if you're on keto. But cellulose is basically a wood fiber, so it doesn't necessarily taste good. It just makes it last longer. So this has to be refrigerated. I've been glad that I've been able to find this down here. So that's the kind I use. So it's literally just cheese. If all you have is the other, certainly use that. But the next time you go to the store, pay attention to your label, and you should be able to read right on your label. It should have your ingredients and say just contains milk and cheese. That's it. So now I'm going to take from there, I'm going to add, typically I do a little bit of Italian seasoning, and I've been changing my spices up a little bit. So this one is a garlic and herb. We're going to do a little bit of that, and we're going to do a little bit of this. This is just the basic poultry seasoning. If you have watched me before, I use this on a pretty regular basis. Sorry, that one hasn't been opened yet. We're going to use this one that's already open. So this is just a different brand of just poultry seasoning. Any kind will do. And so now we're going to mix this part up. So this is just our cheese, Parmesan cheese, almond flour, equal parts, so about a cup of each, and then our seasoning. If you have Italian seasoning and you want to do a little bit of that, that's fine. Maybe you don't buy it that way. Say, well, what do I use? Well, Italian seasoning is basically basil and oregano, garlic, and pepper. That's basically what it is. I try not to do too many seasonings that have salt, because it just tends to add, you get a lot of them with salt, and then all of a sudden you've added a lot more salt than you intended. So, and the next thing I have here is I have 2 eggs. You can quite see those, so 2 eggs here. Just gonna beat these up just a little bit, because we're gonna dip our chicken in the egg and then in the breading, and then it's gonna go on a pan. And I have a sheet pan. It's already lined with parchment. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of cold. Make sure your water is cold to add to your egg. That will thin it out a little bit, and it will help that it not be so thick whenever you dip your breading. This thins this out a little bit, gives it a nice texture for you to do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put our chicken in the egg. You can also use milk if you don't have egg or you don't want to use egg. I know right now eggs are kind of expensive, so you can do it that way as well. And we're just going to put that in there. And then I've got our pan. So here's our cookie sheet, and our cookie sheet just has a piece of parchment on it. That's all that is. So I buy the parchment that's already pre-cut. I happen to get mine at the restaurant supply store. But you can certainly use the kind that comes off on the sheets and do it that way as well. So basically we're just going to take it, drop it in like that, put it on the pan. That's it. Super easy. You want to just kind of keep it really light. Oops, 2 of them are still hooked together a little bit. That's all right. They'll come apart when they're cooked. A little string in there I didn't get cut through with the knife, but we're not going to worry about that right now. And then they just come right out. So you can see the coating on here isn't especially thick. See, it's just enough breading on here. And that's really all we want. We just want a little bit of breading. Also, by doing it this way, doing it quick, you will notice that the dredging that I'm using, it doesn't have the big clumps of egg in it, which often happens whenever you do it. People do this, and then it gets all clumpy, and you end up having to dump the breading out and do a new one because it's gets all yucky. So by thinning out that egg, it's only allowing it to grab all that it really needs for that piece, and it doesn't have a bunch of it just coming off on the bread, in the breadcrumb mixture, because instead of breadcrumbs, again, this was the Parmesan cheese and with seasoning and the almond flour. So we're just going to continue to do this until they're done. Get them all on here, and then we're going to put them in the oven. It does not, these, you know, this is chicken, so we don't have to worry about it spreading. If they get close to each other a little bit, it's going to be okay, because they're not going to go anywhere. And our goal is not going to be to actually cook these. So listen real careful, because this recipe originally, when I did this with breadcrumbs, I would have taken these and put them in a hot pan with oil and browned the outside, literally just browned them. And then after they were brown, put them in a glass pan like we're going to do here shortly with some chicken broth and our mushrooms and cheese. So our real only goal here is to get these brown. I've done this several different ways. I've tried doing this, frying them in the pan this way, because technically on keto, since I'm not using breadcrumbs, it's not really, I don't count the fat calories, so it's okay to fry it. But what happens is once you put them in the pan, when you go to take them out, the breading just doesn't stick the same whenever you're putting them in the oil. And so I just found that it was a big mess, and it didn't really, they don't really stick. And so I wasn't really accomplishing the results that I wanted anyway. So it didn't make sense to go to all that work to do it, because I tried doing it that way first. So we're finishing it up here. We've got two more little pieces here. This one here. This last little piece. Come on, there we go. Okay, and you can see I still have some breading left. Okay, so I still have some breading left. I still have some of my egg mixture left. So that's normal, so expect that, okay? So this was 3 chicken breasts, about 1.5 pounds of chicken, but this was. So we're gonna put this now in the oven, and we're gonna let our mushrooms reduce. Take you over a look at those here real quick again. So here's our mushrooms. You can see they've been reducing quite a bit, so they really were filled up the pan, and now I'm having to pull them all up here just so you can see them, okay? So we're going to continue to just let them cook a little bit. I'm going to turn those down on low. We're going to put this chicken in the oven, and then I'll be back to show you how we're going to put it together. Okay, I just took our chicken out. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Again, we only had it in for about 10 minutes at 450 degrees so that it's light brown, and it's allowed the coating to kind of adhere to the chicken. Right now I don't know if you can see this, but there's water in here, hot water. There you go, you can see it. There's 1.5 cups of hot water, and I'm gonna add about 1 tablespoon, which is 3 teaspoons, of the chicken better than bouillon. Again, if you've watched us before, you'll know that the better than bouillon is my preference when you're looking and learning to read labels, which is really important whether you're eating healthy or not, but especially if you're eating healthy, you've got to really check and see what's in things. I did the hot water because it simply makes this easier to mix this up so that the bouillon will dissolve. And just going to use our spatula here from our mushrooms, kind of get this last little bit off the spoon for us. Okay, and then the next thing we're gonna do, so you can see that you've got your chicken broth. Now, if you wanted to use a can of chicken broth, so this is about 12 ounces. It's 1.5 cups, which would be 12 ounces of liquid. Okay, so if you wanted to do that instead, I'd highly recommend a bone broth if you wanted to do that. And now we're gonna add our chicken. I'll show you. Let's get this over here so we have room for our chicken. This is still hot. I just took it out of the oven, so you can see this chicken is just light brown to start a golden brown. This chicken is not done, and that's intentional. We're going to finish cooking it right now. We're going to put it in our, let's see here. Try and do this so you can see it better. Okay, we'll do it that way. Okay, so I'm taking these chicken just one at a time, and we're just going to place them in here. And they just come off very easily. They're going to sit right in this broth. the coating has now adhered because we baked it. The coating is adhering to the chicken and it won't come off in your broth. So that's the reason that we throw it in the oven at 450 for 10 minutes. And again, we just, make sure you see this. Yeah, this is very, very light brown. And it is not cooked all the way through. Probably another 10 or 15 minutes and it'll be done. But this is super easy. It is an extra step, but it's not a hard step. It didn't take me very long at all to go through that and show it to you. The biggest thing when you're doing this is to have your things prepared. I already had my almond flour in a bowl and I had my cheese out. All those things really help you put this together more quickly if you have everything together. So there we go. Now we have all our pieces. I'm going to scoot these around just a little bit, give them just a little bit more room on some of these. There we go. There. Okay. So now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our mushrooms. So our mushrooms, we've been cooking them and they've been reduced. And look how nice and reduced. We have just a little bit of liquid. We're going to put the liquid and we're going to put it right over our chicken. Okay, you want to spread these out so that every piece of chicken has a little bit of mushroom. Now I used to, when the kids were home, I used to always make 2 pans of this because my family loves this. And I made 1 pan with mushrooms and 1 pan without. Because you know, when you have kids, sometimes they have this phase they go through and they're picky. My oldest daughter used to say that it was shark skin is what she used to call mushrooms. And so she didn't want any of the shark skin in her food. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take now the traditional recipe that my mom did called for American cheese, and we do not eat the processed American cheese. So this is just sharp cheddar cheese I buy. This happens to be the ultra thin, which works really well for this. I buy this to make cheese crackers. If you've never tried that, you just cut your cheese into 4 little squares, put it on parchment paper, and you bake it until they're bubbly, and then you let them cool, and they're like crackers, and they are 0 carbs. And so that's another really easy little thing to do that we have a video. I've not done a video of that. I may think to try to do a video of that for you guys. Super easy. I'll probably put together a video maybe of a lot of easy things put together in one video, because that video would take literally like 2 minutes. It'd be a very quick one. Okay, and so now I'm down to the last piece here. So you can see basically we have covered the entire pan with cheese. Okay, so every nook and cranny is covered with cheese. Okay, there you go. So now we're going to put this in the oven at 400 degrees until the cheese is all bubbly and starting to brown, and kind of similar to what it would be for like pizza. And then we're going to take it out and the chicken will be done, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I just pulled the chicken out and it looks beautiful. Let me kind of see if I can help you guys see it a little bit. See how pretty that is? It's all bubbly and brown and it just smells so good. This really, for me, this is comfort food. And now it no longer has the breading on it. It's no longer got that pre-fried thing going on. So I'm just gonna take a little piece right here. A couple pieces. Cut up my cheese. Now I will say, when we used to use the other kind of cheese that we don't use anymore, the processed cheese, it did really melt into the broth and kind of give it a little bit more of a sauce. But I just wanted to show you guys how incredibly done. This chicken is just so moist, and like, it's so done. And it's so moist and so good. You see that? There we go. And it's just so yummy. So this is really gonna be a great dinner. My husband gets home here in a little bit, and I hope you'll try it and you'll let me know what you think. Eat healthy and be healthy.